everyone, welcome to another video. So we have created a Python user login system in our last video. If you haven't watched that video, please go ahead and do that. I put a link in the description, as well as you can see one is displaying right now on the top right of the screen. So we covered Python user interface design, and in this video we're gonna make some visual changes to our application, as well as we're gonna cover Python relational database management. So we're gonna use SQLite for the purpose of our application, and yep, we're gonna cover that. So it'll be fun. Please stick with me, guys, till the end of this video. I hope you enjoy it. All right, first let's cover the design aspect of our application. As you can see on the left side, we have our current application, and on the right side is what we're looking to make it look like. So we're going to do some minor changes, and it'll look like the one on the right. So to do that, there are basically two ways we can do it. Number one, we can go to the element, to the widget we created, like username here is the one we created. We're gonna go here and add whatever changes in the design we want to do. So for the color, we use FG. Is FG equal to, then we put the color name blue. So if we run it again, see, it changed to blue. This is one way. Now the other way would be to use config method. Config method is a method that we use on the widget to apply any changes on, like, design wise to our application. So username log.lbl.config. So we're gonna come here, we say fg equal to, so let's say red this time. Now we're gonna run it, and as you can see, it's red. For the color, so first of all, the FG represent foreground and BG is like background. So for the color, we can either use the name, or we can use the hexadecimal number that will represent that color. So to find those numbers, I'll put a link in the description. You can just go and find it there, or you can just Google it for whatever color you're trying to input here. It's up to you guys. So this was the second way that we can make changes, but let's do some more changes, and let's change this to a like hexadecimal number. And I'm gonna choose blue actually, because that's what I used before. So I'm gonna input this, I'm gonna run it just to show you guys. Yep, it's blue now. All right, so let's minimize this. So we want to also change the font, so we can say font is equal to Helvetica, and we're gonna say it's 12, the font size, and I want to make it bold. So we run it now. Okay, let's see. Yep, it's bold and it changed the font type. Okay, that's what we wanted. Now we can go and do this to all the other widgets. Let's go to, let me do this. Let's go to pass log lbl. Yep, so we go pass log lbl dot config font equals to Helvetica 12 bold, and fg equals to Okay, where is it? Let me just copy it. It's easier. And we next want to go to, we had another label. Where is the other label we had? We had more labels actually for user registration. So username, user reg, okay, yep, password LPL. Actually, it should be one on top. Where is it? No, this is the next one. Username reg LPL. Yep, this is the one. Username reg LPL.config font Helvetica 12. Okay, there's no comma, 12 bold. And we're gonna say f, okay, fg equals to this. And actually we had, so username, password, username, password. We have two more. For password reg LPL, reg LPL.config equal to font. Okay, my bad. Okay, next one. This one it is. So I'm just gonna paste now. So Helvetica 12 volt and FG. Okay, let's run it. Okay, so these changed as you can see. And so our initial application, like what we had in mind was, let me just show it to you guys just to compare. It was this one. So we made this one actually red, but I made all of them blue. So let me find what I used there. So just make those red just to match. Okay, I'm gonna go back here. Just gonna paste. This is, did I say red? Oh my god, I meant green, guys. Alright, run. Now it's green. The other one we had also, it's green. Let me just bring it. Yep, it's both green now. Alright, we're good here. Now let's move to our database portion and talk about how we're going to define the database and how we're going to connect it to our login and registration methods. Okay, so for Python database management with SQLite3, first of all, we need to import the SQLite3 package. So we're going to go here. We're going to say import SQLite3. Actually, it's SQLite3. Yep. So we're going to import this package. When we do that, then we need, the next step would be to connect to the database. If the mentioned database doesn't exist with our method, SQLite will create the file for us. So let me just show it to you guys. We're gonna come here. We're gonna create a variable. I'm gonna name it con. Yeah, con is good. Then I'm going to say SQLite3 dot, we're going to use a method called connect. So connect, yep. Then we need to give to this method, pass to this method, our database name. So as I said, if the database exists, SQLite3 will connect to it. If it doesn't exist, it'll create it for us. So I'm gonna name it user database, and we need to give it .db. .db will make it, it'll make sure that it'll create it as a database. So the connect function is used with the name of the database in order to connect to the database, as I mentioned earlier. Now, if we run, we're gonna run it one more time, and if we go to our Explorer here, we should be able to see this file created here for us. Yep, as you can see, it's here. You guys wouldn't be able to see the database like this. You're probably gonna just see a table, like a regular file or something like that. The reason I'm seeing it like this because I installed a plugin on my PyCharm that'll help me to view the database like a table. This will be way easier. It'll be more efficient. So I'm going to show it to you guys how to do it. You're gonna go to the hamburger menu. You're gonna go to settings. You need to go to plugins. If you have it installed, you would be able to see it here. Simple SQLite browser. But if you don't have it, you just go here and you just type simple SQL. Okay. And then you just install it, and that's it. You'll be able to see it like this. Let's go back to our code. I'm gonna minimize this. Okay. So this was our step number 1. In step number 2, I'm going to check if the connection is made, just to make sure that every time we try to connect, everything is okay and the connection has been made. We're gonna use a method called isInstance. It's isInstance, this method. This method helps us to check if the connection object, this is our connection object here that we created from the SQLite3 class. This helps us to check if this object is an instance of the SQLite3 connection class. It'll indicate that the connection was successfully established. So to do that, I'm gonna just use a simple if and else statement. So I'm gonna say if, then I'm gonna use the method isInstance, and I'll need to pass it the object con, and I am going to use SQLite3 dot connection. Okay, no, this is connection. If this is true, then I want to print connection established, and I'm gonna have else print there was a problem. Okay, why is this giving us error? This is n here. We didn't have n here. It was n. Okay, I'm gonna run it, and we got an error actually. What is the error? SQLite connection. This is kind of weird. Okay, I see. We don't have any parentheses here actually. Run. Yep, connection established. This is what we wanted. Step 3 is our database schema design tutorial. So in this step, we're going to create something called cursor. So cursors are used to execute SQL commands against database. They basically allow us to process data row by row in the table. And so in order to do that, first we need to create a cursor object from our connection class. So we're going to come here and we're going to say cursor. This is a variable name, and we're going to go to our connection object dot cursor, and this is how we create an object. And in the next step, we can use execute method from our cursor class to run SQL commands against the database. And so we're going to come here, we're going to say cursor. Okay, cursor. Okay, why did I? Cursor. This is better. Dot execute is the method we use to, as I said, to execute commands against our table. So we're gonna say, we're gonna input here right now our SQL code. So I'm gonna put 3 of these here, and I'm gonna just go here. This will be better. Okay, we're gonna say create, which, as you guys might know, create will create us it used when we want to create a table, and we're gonna do all this uppercase. It's just better practice. Create table if not exists, and we're gonna name it users. So we enclose, as you can see here, we enclose the SQL commands in these ones, or multi-line. It's used for multi-line strings. The if not exists clause ensures that the table is created only if it does not already exist. So it's very important to add these, because if we have this table already in our database, we don't want to create another one. So now we're going to go over creating our table, our columns, one by one. I'm going to do this, parentheses, I'm going to inside of it, and I'm going to come here just to make it visually better. The first thing we need is an ID. We say ID, it'll be the type be integer, and it'll be a primary key, and we'll make it auto increment. So this is an auto incrementing integer, which is also a primary key column that uniquely identify each user in our database. And then we need a username column, and it'll be the type will be text, and we'll put a not null, and we want it to be unique. Yep. Well, username, as you can see, is a text column to store the username of the user. We mark it as not null and unique to ensure the uniqueness of this column. Then we have another one. We're going to call it password, and we're going to give it, let's see, let's give it text and not null. And yep, we could add more, but these 3 would do it for now, I guess. Well, password also, it's where we store our password, and it should not be null. So yep. And let's go over the steps one more time. So step 1, we're connecting to the database here. Step 2, we check the connection. Step 3, database schema design tutorial. And now, okay, we have 2 of these. Delete one. Now we're gonna go over to step 4. Step 4, it'll be CURT operations. Okay. So CURT operations are for creating, reading, updating, and deleting things from our table. So like operation managing our records in the database. We're gonna use two today. We're gonna use create and also I think we can use read. Let's go over create first. So in order to do that, to just make it better and easier, we're gonna do that using functions. So I'm gonna say diff create user, and I'm gonna give it the username. I'm gonna give it password. Okay. The create function is, we're going to use it to insert new user record, as I said, into the users table. Users are the table we created before. And we're going to use an SQL insert command, which will make, it takes parameters for the username and password. So we're going to do this by using try and except block. So try and except are mostly used for error handling, and we're going to use it here to catch any error that might occur when inserting into our database. So the try block lets you test a block of code for errors, and the except block will let you handle whenever an error occurs. So remember, if we don't have the try block and the except block, if we get an error, our program will crash. So we wanted to avoid that. That's why we're using this try and except block. Okay, so I'm going to say try, and I'm going to use the cursor dot execute. So as I said before, the execute method we use it for any DML operation, and we're gonna need to add a SQL command and parameters. So the first part of it will be a SQL command, the second part would be the parameters. And so we want to add a new user to the database with the insert into command. We're gonna say cursor dot execute, and we're gonna say insert into users is the name of our table, as you remember, and it'll be username and password. So these are the name of the columns we gave to our columns in the table we created. So we need to use those names. Okay. And the second part of it, we're gonna say values. Now these are the values we want to insert into it. And we're gonna say question mark. Okay, and we're gonna close it. Okay, I'm not gonna go over the second part yet. I just want to explain to you what is happening. So as I said, we use the insert method. We use the insert statement, and we input the field that we define in our schema, as you can see here, these two columns, following the value we gave them in the parameter section. For the values, these should be values here. So this should be the password we're trying to insert into our table and the username. But I'm using question mark instead. 2 question mark for two values. The question marks are placeholder for actual values. We could have like inserted the actual values there. We could have just passed it here. But it's a common practice to use placeholders to prevent SQL injection attacks by hackers. And so want to handle our data securely, so that's why we do it. So each, as I said, each one of these will correspond to one of the values. And now that we have done that, we're gonna go and pass the actual values that we want. So we had username, okay, no, username and password. So these are the parameters. So we pass them, and just remember to place the variable in order. So if we have like let's say username here, it should be username there. You have password here, should correspond in the same order. It's very important, guys. Now that we have inserted these, the next step would be to save them to our database. So we're gonna say, in order for us to be able to do that, we need to use a method called commit. This method is used to save any changes to our database. So let's go and do that. We're gonna call con.commit, and that's it. I just want to also print something to just know that a new user is created. So user created. Okay, now we need to go over our except block. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna come here, we're gonna say except, we're gonna call SQLite3 dot a method called error, and I'm gonna call it as E, just make it easier. I'm gonna print, if an error occurs, I want to print it. So I'm gonna say if failed to create user, and I'm gonna say print E. So this will return the error code, and using that error code, we can identify what is wrong with our application, hopefully. Okay, so we are good. Yep, there's no error. So we're gonna go now over our reg function that we created in the last video. I'm gonna expand it. I'm gonna come here, and I want to add, like, I want to call that function, the create user, from here. So create user, and I want to pass the username and password user that when we input to our entry fields. So I'm going to say reg username and reg pass. Okay, this M should go. If you run the application right now, and we register a new user, we should see those data, like username and password, in the database. So let's do that. Let's run it. I'm going to come here and say James, password 1234, password retype 1234. So remember, I did not define a column for password retype. I'm just inserting the username and password into the database. So sign up, successful. Now let's go to our database. Minimize this first. Go to database, we refresh it, and now we can see it. The first, so each entry, it will have an automated ID. That's what we did when we created the ID column. We set an integer and we set it to auto increment. So this is how we can find this column, this row later, by defining the ID column as a primary key. This is how our database uses it to locate it in our database. Now let's go back and define another method. Okay, so I'm gonna minimize this. I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna minimize this as well. Okay. We want to have another method to read, or in other words, get the information we have in the database table. So I'm gonna say, and we can call it get user. I'm gonna say diff get user, and we're just gonna need username because we're gonna locate the user we're looking for with the username. So again, we need to use try and except block. So try, I'm gonna come here, cursor dot execute. Okay, so we're gonna say select this time everything from users where user name is equal to question mark. I'm going to explain to you guys later what this is. And comma, we're going to pass the parameters, which will be username. And I'm going to do this. Okay. So keep in mind that the cursor.execute function accepts two things here. First is the SQL statement that we give it here. This is a SQL statement. And a tuple. So the tuple is where we pass our variable here. These parentheses, inside of it, there should be a tuple. So when we want to pass a single parameter, we can't just pass it like a regular variable. We need to pass it as a tuple. To do that, we add a comma here. This comma tells to our database that this is a tuple. This is like tells the execute method that this is a tuple and it's okay. It's not just in a string. It's not just a variable. Okay. And also this, we went over this in the last method. This is a placeholder for the username here. So there's no questioning that. So we're saying that select everything from users table, and we're giving it a condition. What is the condition? Where the username is equal to this. This is how we retrieve a user that we're looking for, by giving the username. Okay, and then we're gonna create another variable. We're gonna call it user, and we're gonna say cursor. We're gonna use a method called fetch1. This will help us to retrieve the first element that we have from our query result. So fetch1 is used where we might have more than one row or no row at all. But it means that in our case, we have defined the username to be unique when we're creating the schema, but there might be a situation when we get no row, because the username we're passing here, it might be not exist in our table. So in that scenario, we want to have fetch1 here because it'll help us to prepare for the possibility of an unexpected situation such as this, such as like your database inconsistency or unexpected data that will get handled easier when we're using this method. So this method will help us a lot. And we don't need commit here since we're not making any changes in the database. We're just retrieving data. We just need to like return the user. So we're gonna say return user. Okay, and we need to go and define the except block, except SQLite3 dot error as equal print f can't find the user, and we're going to give it the error code. Okay, and we want to return nothing if we have an error. Okay, the error should be gone now. Yep, it's gone. I'm going to put a space here, makes it easier to read. Okay, now we need to go back to the what was the method? Login func, actually. Let's go back there. I want to make some changes there to make use of this get user method. It's here, login func. Okay. So as you can remember in our last video, we had some values hard coded here. So admin and password, for example, and then we had the message box. So we want to change this. We want to make it that it'll retrieve the username from the database, and it'll match it with that, and then it'll tell us, okay, this user exists in the database, your information is your username and password is authenticating right now, and like something like welcome back or whatever. So we need to do that. We want to do that. So in order for us to do that, we need to change that, the hard-coded portion. So we're gonna say, instead of admin, we want to say, well, first we need to call the function. Actually, we need to call the get user function. So we're gonna come up here. I'm gonna put this. We're gonna come up here. We're gonna say get user, and we need to pass to it the username we're looking for. We're gonna say log username. Okay. But before we go any further, there's one more thing we should consider. If we input a name in the entry field that does not exist, this will return none. This could cause us some trouble when we don't have it. So if I put it here, let's say if I put this now here, if I give it I don't know, like a name, get user, okay, equal to this, and I want to put it here, get user. We want to say, so okay, so the entry field, this is the entry field, whatever user input in the entry field. I want to say if these two equals and the password match, and so like authenticate the user, say login information correct. Okay, but if what we input here does not exist, we can't compare something to an empty object. So this will be empty. We can't compare, we can't put it in the if statement. It'll give us an error within the application, not the database. So to fix this, I'm gonna use a small trick. So I'm gonna delete this first of all. I'm gonna say if get user dot log username. So I'm gonna make this lower just to keep the data consistent, and I'm gonna say if this is not equal to none, if it's not equal to none, then I want to say like I don't know, like db data is equal to get user, and we pass it this. Okay, so we're passing it this, and we made a mistake here. It's underscore user. Okay. And so what we're saying here, basically we're saying that if first of all, we're passing the entry field data, whatever we input in the entry field, to the get user method. And we're saying that if this whatever this returns is not none, because we define in our get user that if an error occurs, which could be not finding the user, an error, return none. So we said if this is not none, then I want to define a variable called dbData, and I want to get user, and I want to pass this to it. Okay, so now we have it. So only if this is not none, we're gonna have this something assigned to it. Otherwise, we're not gonna have it. So anything assigned, or we're not gonna retrieve the data from the database. Okay, now let's go to the next section. We want to say here, we want to change this. This is like get user is not, so get user will return the username and password, okay, as a tuple. Remember, we use tuple. So the first column is username, as remember how we define it in our schema. The second one is password. Actually, the first one is ID. Second one is number 1 is username, and number 2 is password. So we want number 1, which is the username. So we're gonna say 1. This will get the username, not the whole thing, not the whole tuple. And also for the password, we want to say, instead of this, we want to say dbData, and we're going to say 2. 2 is the password. Okay. Now we're comparing them. We compare these two. If what the user input in the entry field is equal in what we have in the database as the username, and if the password as well match. Why did I say dbData? We should have said, yep, actually we should have said here dbData as well. dbData. Oh, okay. So if what the user input as the username equals to what we have in the database, and what we have as a password equal what we have in the database as the password, then we want to say that like this was user successfully is logging in or whatever. Actually, let's make it more personal. So let's say login information correct, and let's say welcome. Okay, welcome. We need to add a F here. Welcome dbData, and we're gonna give it 1. So this will display the user name, whatever is the username. And for the next part, we're gonna go to else. Actually, let's make some changes here, like further changes. Let's remove the else part, and instead we're gonna make some changes here. Let's say if log username is equal to dbData 1. So if the username is equal to username we have in the database, and the password that user input is not equal to dbData 2, is not equal to the password we have in the database, we're gonna say go to message box, go to show warning. Let's try this one, and we're gonna call it password. And for the message, we can say let's say F hi, and we can use the username to make it more like personal. Hi dbData 1, and we're gonna say you, okay, not in here, exclamation mark, you are entering the wrong password. So this is a bad practice, guys. Don't do this. Do not let the user, whoever is trying to access, know if the username or the password they're entering is wrong. You don't see that in the websites or application. It doesn't tell you. It just tells you either you can't sign in, or it tells you username or password information, or username or password is wrong. But I'm doing this just for demonstration purposes. This is not, I'm not going to launch this application, or you're not going to see it anywhere. If I wanted to develop an actual application that we're going to use in a business, I would not define it like this. This is only for demonstration. Do not use this technique. It's not secure. Okay, this is the first one, and let's define another one. Let's say elif, and we're gonna say if log username, it's not. So if the username is not equal to our database username, okay, this should be like this: db data 1 and or log pass is not equal to db data 2, the database password. If this is the case, we want to say message box dot show error, and we're going to call it login failed, and we're gonna go next one. Let's see, what kind of message should I put? It could be anything. We'll just go with incorrect username. If you haven't registered, this is wrong, please sign up first, or something like that. Okay, now we have completed this. Let's go check it out. Okay, so let's go and check out the feature we added. Just gonna go to the database table first. So as you can see, I did input some entries here. We're gonna run it. We're gonna go back to our app actually first. Run. Gonna go here. So let's say we had Mustafa 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the correct information. Login successful, welcome Mustafa. If we change the username to something wrong, let's say login, incorrect username, you haven't registered, please sign up first. Okay, so username is right, password wrong, login, you're entering wrong password. Okay, awesome. Okay, we are done with today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I'm going to put a link to the GitHub repository for this code. You can go there and download it if you want. And if you liked watching this video, please give me a thumbs up, like, comment, or let me know if you have any opinion about this video. I would appreciate that very much. Thank you. Happy coding, guys.